I was working as a lifeguard at Bondi Beach when this American guy walked up to me holding a boogie board. He looked confused, really confused. He pointed at the flags we'd set up in the sand and asked me why we were restricting his freedom to swim wherever he wants. I explained those red and yellow flags mark the safe swimming area. Anywhere outside them, the rips will pull you straight out to sea. He stared at me like I'd just told him the earth was flat. Then he said, "And I'm not making this up. In America, we don't let the government tell us where we can swim." I had to explain that the flags weren't about government control. They were about not drowning. He still swam outside the flags. We had to rescue him 20 minutes later. That pattern? It's not random. I've spent years tracking how cultural logic breaks the moment it leaves home turf. Most creators share travel fails. I mapped the psychology underneath them. If that difference clicked for you already, you know subscribing isn't about helping me. It's about never seeing the world the same way again. Another day at the same beach. An American family showed up with a cooler full of beer. They set up right in the middle of the beach and started cracking them open. It was 11 in the morning. My supervisor walked over and politely told them alcohol wasn't allowed on the beach. The dad got defensive immediately. He said they were on vacation and they'd paid good money to be here. My supervisor explained it's just the law in New South Wales. No alcohol on public beaches. The guy actually said, "This is why America fought for independence." Over beach drinking laws in Australia, a country that wasn't even involved in that war. My mate, who works at a surf shop in Byron Bay, told me about an American couple who came in looking for surfboards. They wanted the biggest boards in the shop. He suggested they start with something more beginner-friendly, since the waves were solid that day. The husband cut him off and said he'd been watching surfing videos on YouTube for months. He was ready. My mate shrugged and rented them the boards. They lasted about 4 minutes in the water before a wave absolutely demolished them. The husband came back in furious. He demanded a refund because, and I quote, "the ocean was too aggressive." My mate just pointed at the waiver they'd signed. I've got dozens of these stories, and they all follow the same pattern. Americans show up to Australian beaches expecting things to work like they do back home. They don't. And instead of adapting, they double down. They argue with lifeguards. They ignore warning signs. They treat the ocean like it's a swimming pool that's personally offended them. And every single time, Australia wins. Because here's the thing about Australian beaches. They don't care about your confidence. They don't care about your patriotism. They don't care how many Instagram followers you have. The ocean will humble you in seconds. And if you're lucky, a lifeguard will be there to pull you out and laugh about it later. That's the moment most people miss. The humility point. I decode it here every week. How confidence without context turns into chaos. You won't find that kind of breakdown in travel vlogs or reaction videos. This is the deeper layer. The people who subscribe already see it. I was stationed at Manly Beach during peak summer season when this American guy in his 30s approached our tower. He had the whole setup. Expensive board shorts, reef-safe sunscreen, a GoPro strapped to his chest. He asked me what the skill level of the waves was today. I told him they were running about 4 to 5 feet with a strong southerly current. Not ideal for beginners. He laughed and told me he'd grown up swimming in the Atlantic Ocean. This would be easy. I suggested he stay between the flags anyway. He looked offended, like I'd questioned his entire identity. 30 minutes later, I'm watching him through binoculars. He's completely ignored the flags and paddled out to a section we call the washing machine. It's called that for a reason. The currents there spin you around like laundry. I see him get caught in a rip. He starts panicking, arms flailing everywhere. We paddle out on the rescue board and bring him back. He's coughing up seawater and shaking. I ask if he's okay. He nods. Then he says, "That current wasn't marked on Google Maps." I worked with a lifeguard from Surfer's Paradise who told me about an American woman who got stung by a bluebottle jellyfish. For context, bluebottle stings hurt like hell, but they're not dangerous. We have a first aid station with vinegar and ice packs, specifically for this. She came running up to the station, screaming that she'd been attacked by a poisonous jellyfish and needed to go to the hospital immediately. My colleague tried to calm her down and explain it was just a blue bottle. Minor sting. Happens all the time. She wasn't hearing it. She demanded an ambulance. He explained that would cost her thousands of dollars as a tourist. She said she didn't care. She'd sue the beach if they didn't call one. He called it. The paramedics arrived, looked at the sting, confirmed it was a blue bottle, and told her she'd be fine. She still went to the hospital. Apparently, she posted about the whole thing on Facebook, calling Australian beaches death traps and saying American beaches were safer. Someone in the comments pointed out that Florida has actual deadly jellyfish and sharks. She deleted the post. My cousin works at Cottesloe Beach in Western Australia. He said an American couple showed up one morning with their 2 kids. The kids were maybe 6 and 8 years old. The parents sent them straight into the water without even looking at the conditions. No floaties, no supervision. Just let them run in. My cousin immediately noticed the kids were struggling. The shore break was dumping hard that day. He ran in and grabbed both kids before they got pulled under. When he brought them back to the parents, the dad actually got angry at him. Said he was being overprotective, that his kids knew how to swim. My cousin pointed out that swimming in a pool is completely different from ocean swimming. The dad said that was nanny state mentality. And in America, parents don't get told how to raise their kids. My cousin just walked away. Later that afternoon, the same family got caught in a rip. My cousin had to rescue all 4 of them. The dad didn't say anything that time. There's this thing that happens with American tourists at Australian beaches. They see the ocean and they think they understand it because they've been to a beach before. But the Pacific Ocean around Australia is not the same as the Gulf of Mexico. It's not the same as the Caribbean. It's not even the same as the California coast. The currents here are stronger. The waves are heavier. The rips are faster. And the wildlife is more dangerous. We have box jellyfish in the north that can kill you in minutes. We have saltwater crocodiles that hunt in the shallows. We have sharks that actually attack people. This isn't fear-mongering. It's just reality. And lifeguards here train for years to handle these conditions. So when a lifeguard tells you to stay between the flags, it's not because they're bored and want to boss you around. It's because they've pulled hundreds of bodies out of the water, and they'd prefer not to add yours to the list. I remember one American guy who argued with me about shark nets. He said they were inhumane and Australia should remove them. I explained the nets don't actually stop sharks. They reduce the number of sharks close to shore, but they're not a complete barrier. He said that was even worse, that we were giving people a false sense of security. I asked him what he'd prefer. He said Australia should just accept that sharks live in the ocean and people should swim at their own risk. I told him that's literally what we do at beaches without nets. He called me a smartass. Then he asked where the nearest netted beach was so he could swim there safely. I was doing a shift at Noosa Main Beach when an American guy walked past our "No surfboards in swimming area" sign carrying a surfboard. I stopped him and pointed at the sign. He looked at it, looked at me, then said, "I'm not swimming though. I'm surfing." I explained that was exactly why he couldn't go in that section. The swimming area is for swimmers only. He'd have to go to the surf break further down the beach. He asked why. I told him it's dangerous to have hard fiberglass boards in a crowded swimming area full of kids. He said he'd be careful. I said it's not about being careful. It's about the rule. He muttered something about Australia being a police state and walked off. 5 minutes later, I see him in the swimming area with his board anyway. I blow my whistle and wave him in. He pretends not to see me. I have to paddle out and physically escort him to shore. He tells me I'm ruining his vacation. My friend works at a beach on the Gold Coast where they have strict "no drones" signs everywhere. It's because drones interfere with rescue helicopter operations and also freak out the swimmers. An American tourist flew a drone anyway, right over the crowded beach during peak hour. My friend went up to him and asked him to land it. The guy said he was just getting some footage for his YouTube channel. My friend explained it was illegal. The guy said nobody had stopped him yet, so it must be fine. My friend pointed at the 3 different signs within 10 meters of where they were standing. The guy said those signs were unclear and that in America they'd have more obvious warnings. My friend called the police. The guy got fined $600. He posted a video about it calling Australia anti-content creator. There was an incident at Bells Beach where an American guy climbed over the fence to get a better photo of the waves. There's a fence there because the cliff edge is unstable and people have fallen to their deaths. The fence isn't decorative. It's literally preventing you from dying. This guy didn't care. He wanted the shot. A local yelled at him to get back. He yelled back that he was a professional photographer and knew what he was doing. Then the section of cliff he was standing on started to crumble. He scrambled back over the fence just in time. The local who'd warned him said, "That's why there's a fence, mate." The American said the fence should have been taller if it was really dangerous. Like the fence was the problem, not his decision to climb over it. I've noticed American tourists have this weird relationship with warning signs. They see them as suggestions rather than actual warnings. At Bronte Beach, we have signs about the underwater rock shelf that can break your neck if you dive in wrong. Every summer, Americans dive in wrong. We had one guy who dove in head first, hit the rocks, and had to be taken to hospital with a concussion. When he recovered, he wrote a review saying the beach should have better signage. There were 4 signs, in English, with pictures. He just didn't read them. Another lifeguard told me about an American family who set up their tent on the beach overnight. Camping on the beach is illegal in most of Australia. You can get fined. Rangers came by at 6 in the morning and told them to pack up. The dad argued that they'd camped on beaches in California without any issues. The ranger explained this wasn't California. The dad said it was discriminatory to have different rules in different countries. The ranger just wrote them a ticket and walked away. The family packed up but left all their trash behind. The lifeguards had to clean it up. The funniest one I've heard was about an American couple who brought their dog to a no dogs allowed beach. When someone told them dogs weren't allowed, they said their dog was an emotional support animal. In Australia, we don't have the same emotional support animal exceptions as America. If the sign says no dogs, it means no dogs unless it's a registered assistance animal. The couple insisted their dog qualified. They even had a vest they'd bought online. Security came over and asked for the dog's official documentation. They didn't have any. They got asked to leave. On the way out, the woman said this would never happen in America because America respects people's mental health needs. The security guard said, "We respect the mental health of all the people who came here to enjoy a dog-free beach." Here's what I don't understand. Americans are always talking about personal responsibility and individual freedom. But the moment a rule inconveniences them, suddenly it's oppression. You can't have it both ways. Either you follow the rules that keep everyone safe, or you accept the consequences when you don't. Australian beaches have rules for a reason. They're not random. They're based on decades of experience dealing with drownings, injuries, and emergencies. The rules exist because people died before they were put in place. So when a sign says "Don't swim outside the flags," it's not a suggestion. It's a warning written in blood. I did a summer season at Cronulla Beach, where we had an American guy who came to the beach every single day for a week. He'd swim for hours. No problems. He was actually a strong swimmer. But on his last day, he decided to swim out past the break line to really experience the ocean. We tried to stop him. He insisted he'd been fine all week. What he didn't understand was that the conditions change daily. That day, the swell had picked up, and the rips were running hard. He got caught. We pulled him out. He was embarrassed but grateful. Then he said something that stuck with me. He said, "I thought confidence was enough." That's the whole problem right there. My supervisor told me about an American woman who wanted to swim from Bondi to Bronte. That's about a kilometer of open ocean swimming past rocky cliffs with serious currents. She'd seen locals do it and figured she could too. My supervisor asked if she'd done any ocean swimming training. She said she'd done triathlons. He explained that pool training doesn't prepare you for ocean swimming. She said she'd figure it out. He told her she needed to do it with a group and wear a bright swim cap so boats could see her. She said that was excessive. She set off alone. Halfway to Bronte, she got into trouble. A lifeguard on a jet ski had to bring her back. She apologized, but also said she still thought she could have made it if she'd had better conditions. There's this American mindset that confidence equals competence. That if you believe in yourself enough, you can do anything. And look, positive thinking is great. But the ocean doesn't care about your mindset. The ocean is physics and biology and chaos. You can be the most confident person on Earth, and a rip current will still drag you out to sea. You can have all the self-belief in the world, and a blue bottle will still sting you. Confidence without respect is just arrogance, and arrogance gets people killed. I watched an American guy try to body surf a wave that was clearly too big for him. The locals were sitting on the sand, watching and shaking their heads. Everyone could see it was a bad idea, except him. The wave picked him up and slammed him into the sand so hard, he got the wind knocked out of him. We had to help him to shore. He sat there gasping and said, "I thought I had it." One of the locals said, "Mate, thinking you have it and actually having it are two different things." Another time, an American couple asked me if it was safe to swim in a particular spot. I told them no. There was a submerged rock formation there that created unpredictable currents. They asked how I knew. I said I'd worked this beach for 3 years and seen multiple people get injured there. They looked at each other. Then they asked if I thought they specifically would be okay. Like somehow the rocks would make an exception for them. I said no. Nobody is okay swimming there. That's why we put up signs. They thanked me and then swam there anyway. Luckily, they didn't get hurt. But they easily could have. Here's the thing about Australian beaches. They're beautiful. They're world famous. They're absolutely worth visiting. But they demand respect. The locals who surf here have been reading these waves since they were kids. The lifeguards have years of training and certifications. Even they don't mess around with dangerous conditions. So, when a tourist shows up with zero ocean experience and maximum confidence, it's a recipe for disaster. And the frustrating part is that, most of the time, these people get lucky. They swim outside the flags and nothing happens. They ignore the signs and they're fine. And that just reinforces their belief that the rules don't apply to them. Until the one time they're not lucky, and then everyone has to drop everything to save them. I had an American guy tell me once that Australians were too cautious about beach safety. He said Americans had a frontier spirit that made them more willing to take risks. I told him that frontier spirit resulted in a lot of dead frontiersmen. He laughed like I was joking. I wasn't. The Australian approach to beaches is simple. Respect the ocean, and it'll give you the best day of your life. Disrespect it, and it'll kill you without hesitation. There's no middle ground. The ocean doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your nationality or your confidence level, or how many beaches you've been to before. It just is what it is, and either you adapt to it or you suffer the consequences. The most dangerous person on an Australian beach isn't the person who's scared of the water. That person stays in the shallows and asks questions. The most dangerous person is the one who thinks they already know everything. The one who sees a warning sign and thinks it doesn't apply to them. The one who watches locals and thinks, I can do that too, without understanding the years of experience behind it. That person is the one we're pulling out of rips all summer long. And 9 times out of 10, they're American. I want to end this with one more story. Last summer, I was working at Tamarama Beach when an American guy in his 50s approached me. He'd been watching me direct swimmers back between the flags for about an hour. He walked up and said, "You really take this seriously, don't you?" I said, "Yeah, I do." "Because people die?" He nodded slowly. Then he told me that when he first arrived in Australia 2 weeks earlier, he'd thought all the safety stuff was overkill. He'd ignored the flags a few times. He'd swum in areas he shouldn't have. But then he'd watched a rescue happen, saw how fast things went wrong, saw how hard the lifeguards worked to get someone out. And it clicked for him. He said, "I get it now. You're not being controlling. You're keeping people alive." I told him I appreciated him saying that. He said he wished more Americans understood before they showed up. That's really what all of this comes down to. It's not about Americans being bad tourists or Australians being uptight. It's about understanding that different places have different rules for different reasons. Australian beaches are genuinely dangerous. We lose people every year, tourists and locals, strong swimmers and weak swimmers. The ocean doesn't discriminate. And the systems we have in place, the flags and signs and lifeguards, they exist because they save lives, not because we enjoy telling people what to do. If you're American and you're planning to visit an Australian beach, here's my advice. Listen to the lifeguards. Read the signs. Stay between the flags. Don't assume your experience elsewhere translates here. Ask questions if you're unsure. And check your ego at the shoreline, because the ocean will humble you faster than anything else on Earth. That's exactly what this channel is built on. Decoding the gap between confidence and consequence. If you've watched this far, you're already part of the few who see past the surface. Subscribing just keeps that perspective sharp. I'll keep dissecting these stories either way, but the people who do subscribe, they stay 3 moves ahead. And if you let it, Australia will give you some of the best beach experiences of your life. The water is incredible. The sand is perfect. The waves are world-class. You just have to respect them first. I've got hundreds more stories like these. They never stop coming. Every summer brings a new wave of tourists who think they know better. And every summer, we pull them out of the water and try to explain why the rules exist. Some of them listen, some of them don't. But we keep doing it anyway, because that's the job. Keep people safe even when they don't want to be kept safe. And occasionally, roast their egos when they really deserve it.